Hey everyone, I'm Keaton, the general manager for Immortals, and I have Zaboutine, the head coach, with me as well. Just wanted to run everyone through kind of our spring split, our off season that we just had, and then moving forward into the summer split. So talking about spring split and when we first entered into the LCS. So we started off our season with a couple days of practice. We had some unfortunate delays for our visas. And so we had probably a day and a half of practice heading into week one. We tried to do kind of our best at getting a structure together and getting all the guys together to kind of become a team off of very little practice into the first week. I think for us, though, the on-stage results didn't necessarily reflect what was happening in practice or kind of the trajectory there. So we were called like the second or like the best worst second place team or something like that along these lines.
The worst best team or the best worst team?
Our record didn't really reflect that. And so we knew we still had a lot to prove, even sitting at, I think, 5-2 through week 3. So we went through the spring split, trying to adapt and make some changes through, and ended up making a change in week 5, week 6 by moving Apollo up. We were looking at a bunch of different solutions and kind of changes that we could make to bolster our roster and kind of bolster the performance of the team. And, we saw it as more of a Band-Aid kind of solution or a fix to, what we wanted to accomplish. I would say we saw some progress through probably that week 6, week 7 from the team and just individuals overall. And then COVID hit around that time frame. And we started to work from home, and slowly over time, we started to see kind of the effects of that, of working from home and not being in a huge group or team environment, and the emotional side effects that come with it.
I mean, every team had to face COVID, so I don't want to put it as an excuse. This situation has been hitting every in different manner. I think for the inside group, not being in person was like a huge thing. Being able to kind of discuss outside of screen time, all this informal discussion that happened within the team that really like lift the mood a little bit, makes the atmosphere a little bit more healthy when you're winning, because we're in the middle of a slump at this point. And even for me, like it's harder to connect individually with the players remotely, which is completely normal, right? It's a simple thing, right? It's pretty hard. Nevertheless, I mean, we had a huge chance to qualify for the playoff against a game that was borderline won against Dignitas, and when we failed at like closing out the game, I feel like not the whole group collapsed, but especially in remote, it was very, very hard to bounce back. So we lost the game after, and then even the tiebreakers, I don't think the group was like that much in because they thought like they should have been in these playoffs, even though like our split in terms of performance hasn't been the best League of Legends wise, right? We haven't been producing the best level of gameplay, and that's one thing that obviously we want to address for next split.
I guess coming into our off season, we sat down to go over a lot of the different changes that we felt we wanted to make. Starting kind of with structural changes and overall philosophy of how we see the roster and how we approach practice, how we approach reviews, just from top down. So we had it in, I would say, 3 weeks or so before most of the other LCS teams started to scrim, and ran internal sets of mixed rosters between the LCS and Academy. I think we did that for about 3 weeks or so until the LCS teams started back up. And, our intent through that was to see the different combinations that we maybe weren't able to in the previous offseason heading into spring, as we only had 2 days of practice time. So it allowed us, a lot more time to just see, what fits where, and kind of putting together the, I guess, best formula of what we can make. And once we headed into the LCS scrims, this is probably about 3-4 weeks later, we again kind of ran some mixed internals for another couple weeks versus LCS scrims, and came back and decided on our week 1 roster, and understanding where we wanted to go from there heading into the summer split.
You have two ways of approaching the building of a roster. I think that's the one that we tried since the beginning of this year was really like synergy wise, and because you have the level aspect, right? The individual things that the player single-handedly is going to provide to the team, and you have the synergy, right? How much two players playing at the same time are going to impact positively or negatively the global team and the environment. And so the goal of these internals was to move forward and try all the possible available synergies that we had with our 10 men in a way that we know what are the options that we have on the table and try them, instead of facing a situation within the split where we would be, oh, this thing is not working on this patch or in this scenario, but we don't know what we could do otherwise, which is what we happened in the spring split, right? We ended up with like 1.5 days of practice, so you can't really move pieces, right? So it's not about one player specifically being better than the other. It's, oh, I see this group being cohesive, and I see that this academy group is being cohesive at the same time while actually shuffling the rosters. And these groups seems to both improve while working together. So why not trying this iteration? And it doesn't mean that even like one group is significantly better than the other. And then it's at the end of the day, it's our job to find out what we want to put on stage, right? Which is what we did. But I think that the whole thing was more so to identify the human and gameplay synergies that we had available to make sure that we can use as wide like the spectrum of options, as wide of a spectrum of options as we can for these splits. And I mean, this has been at least the last 4.5 weeks of work for the coaching staff, and for both Malaclips, myself, and GoTo, plus Keaton.
You know, our week 1 roster for the LCS will be Soaz in the top lane, we'll have Potluck in the jungle, Ika in mid lane, we'll have Altec and Gate in the bottom lane as well. You know, heading into the summer split, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be the roster that you're going to see, you know, week in and week out, and, you know, the same 5 players. You know, this is something that we're going to continue to evaluate as the season goes on, and, you know, understand what gives us our best chance at making that final push into playoffs and eventually into Worlds. And I think this is something that also doesn't just carry over into, you know, just the summer split. This is something that, you know, we want to foster long term. It's something that we want to hold to the Immortals brand. And so this is, you know, something we're looking at 2021, 2022, and revamping a lot of our planning and our ideas as to what the future will hold for Immortals. And, you know, it's something that we're truly excited about working on and have been putting a lot of time into. You know, we will continue to still put some time into that. And of course, LCS kicks off this week. We play against FlyQuest and CLG for our opening weekend. You know, I think overall for us, we definitely want these guys to shine and have their chance proven. And, you know, we're excited to see it.